a higher intelligence or an animated animal. In nature there are victims, and accordingly, predators. But it happens that even a predator can become someone's victim. That's exactly the story of our heroine. Mary, a young woman in full bloom, at the age of 28 years. The woman's appearance is quite attractive. Long black hair, slanted hazel-colored eyes, with large, thick eyelashes. The sharply defined cheekbones and lips, with down-swept corners, give a certain arrogance to her face. The woman lives like Christ behind her back, carefree. She has a hard-working husband who provides her with everything she wants. Her son, Eric, has recently turned 6 years old, but the boy is smart beyond his years. Life seems to be successful, but the woman is oppressed by one feeling, and its name is jealousy. She has been terribly jealous of her husband, Adam, for a long time. The strangest thing is that Adam has never given his wife any reason to be jealous. Mary simply torments her man with reproaches and suspicions. Her efforts were not vain, and eventually Adam really found a woman on the side and began to gradually distance himself from his legitimate wife. When Mary finally came to her senses and realized that she had made a mistake, Adam became cold to her and decided to leave the family. Mary is strongly embittered. She is overwhelmed by a wave of hatred and a desire for revenge. It is quite possible that the clue to her condition is hidden in Mary's past, because once her father left the family to a young woman, thus settling in the heart of the heroine distrust and hatred of men. Mary makes the only and, in her opinion, the right decision, which is to kill her husband. Since she is a woman and women are weak, she realizes that physical force will not do anything and decides to poison Adam. She chooses the right moment to put her plan into action and slips poison into her husband's coffee. The man dies in agony, gasping and wriggling from the poison, and finally, after half an hour of agonizing convulsions, he dies. Mary has been looking for a place to hide her husband's still warm body and decides to drag him to the basement and carefully covers the traces of the crime, then collects all Adam's things to get rid of them later. Mary makes up a legend about the departure of the unfaithful husband from the family, who collected all his belongings and left the family. His fate and whereabouts are unknown to her. The result, Adam is recognized as missing, and Mary cries and makes herself an inconsolable widow. Some time passes, and Mary marries again. Her story repeats itself, and this time the woman manages to get away with it. In the future, Mary doesn't enter into marriages with men, but simply has intimate relationships with casual lovers who have wives and children. The woman feels like a kind of executioner who is at the same time an avenger. But in reality, Mary has become a ruthless killer who has no sense of compassion and is driven by an uncontrollable bloodlust. The number of her victims exceeded a dozen. All the corpses were hidden in the basement and stored in zinc coffins. Eric unexpectedly returns home from boarding school for fall break. Passing by the picture, 12-year-old Eric felt a vile specific odor that came from the basement. He decides to go down there to investigate and see what could be smelling like that. The boy is terrified when he gets a flashlight and sees 13 zinc coffins. But being a curious boy, Eric lifts the lid of one of the coffins. There is a terrible, frightened scream of a teenager, and the boy faints from what he saw in the coffin. Eric opened the coffin to find the decomposed body of his father, who he had thought until that moment was missing. Mary heard a child scream from the basement, went to the door and locked it shut. son missing to the station, and maybe soon the valiant police would have suspected her of wrongdoing. But a new figure in this gruesome story emerges. Mary meets her new lover, a sexy man named Jack. He invites the woman to his house for a romantic dinner. Before the meeting that evening, Mary puts a flask of poison in her purse and goes to visit her lover. Jack greets the young woman with an acerbic smirk. He escorts her to the kitchen where a bottle of champagne and fruit has already been prepared. As soon as Mary turns her back to the man, she is suddenly hit hard in the head. Before losing consciousness, the woman realizes that she is trapped. Mary opens her eyes and realizes that she is bound, and Jack is sitting in the chair across from her, smoking a pipe, filling the air with the acrid smell of tobacco. The woman notices something large standing in the corner, covered with a piece of scarlet satin. Jack sees that the woman has come to her senses and utters, "It would be unfair if I killed you without explaining anything. You see, I'm a hunter. I hunt people like you, ruthless predators with a thirst for blood in human form. In a way, I'm a purifier. You're a murderer, and you deserve to die, and I know everything you've done. Today I am your judge, and I am your executioner. Do you wish to have the last word?" There was not an ounce of pity in the man's eyes. "I don't want to die. Have mercy on me." Tears appeared in the woman's eyes, probably for the first time in several years. Only now she realized that she had made a mistake. She had played around, feeling her impunity. She felt incredibly sorry for herself. The man stood up from his chair and quietly pronounced his sentence. "You overstepped your bounds by killing innocent people. You are an animal that needs to be exterminated." Jack tore a piece of scarlet material off the mysterious object, and the woman saw it. A 2-meter-long sarcophagus in the shape of a female silhouette, hollow inside and filled with protruding metal, needles, and spikes. The man pulled from his pocket the flask of poison he had taken from Mary's bag and poured its contents into a glass of brandy. The woman's eyes widened with horror, and she screamed. Jack grabbed her throat sharply and poured the infernal mixture into her open mouth. Grabbing the convulsing woman by the scruff of the neck, the man pushed her into the sarcophagus and slammed the wooden flaps shut, then went on smoking his pipe. Jack's face was indifferent. He had simply completed his task. The woman screamed madly, but was soon silent. The metal needles had penetrated deep into her flesh, bringing hellish pain. To scream now was too expensive a pleasure. The sarcophagus had been arranged so that the sharp needles did not harm any vital organs. Mary suffered for half an hour at most, which seemed an eternity to her. She died of hemorrhage, or maybe from the poison. It doesn't matter. What is important is that, in her last moments, the faces of her murdered victims stood before her eyes. Now you, dear readers, you just have to go to the window to see if it's the bloodthirsty killer Mary or Jack the cleaner.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird won't sing,